Where,
Yes.
which topic will you cover? The requirement tracking management (RTM).
Oh, that is going to be tomorrow's lecture. It is part of
Okay.
testing because RTM is generally used during testing phases. Let's suppose if there is a bug, there's a defect, and they want to trace it down, like from which requirement, which use case, and which business requirement it came from. So you have to use this RTM. So that is from tomorrow's lecture. Tomorrow is the second and last lecture of testing. Hope you all had good weekend. You guys can see my screen? I don't think so.
No, not yet.
Give me one second. My voice is still breaking?
Not for me.
Okay.
No.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Jaspreet. All right. One second. So till now we have covered 5 lectures, around 5 sessions, where we have covered following major concepts. So in terms of software development lifecycle, that's where we want to see our progress. So software development lifecycle, first phase is requirement gathering. So in terms of requirements, we have understood that there are different types of requirements. You will have business requirements. That is the one and only category, major category. That covers every further part. Once you are going to implement those business requirements, then these business requirements are going to be broken down in terms of the areas it is going to get affected with. For example, business requirement is nothing but automation. That is basically supporting their operations. So meaning that they want this application to be functional and support their operations, day-to-day operations, even if they are using this for tracking and monitoring purpose, if they are using this platform for social networking, if they are using this platform for reporting purposes, it had to be functional. So business requirement is broken down into functional and non-functional requirement, which is non-functional basically is your supporting task. Then we also covered data requirement is there. We'll be covering data part in our last 2 lectures. After testing, we'll start data warehousing, and then we'll cover data, how to gather data requirement, how to document data requirement, compliance requirements, and mainly compliance requirements will be covered in your domain session when we are going to work in, we are going to go through the industry part. Pertaining to those industries, either it's a financial industry or healthcare sector or e-commerce sector, there are different types of compliance authorities. There are different types of regulatory monitoring authorities which are continuously monitoring these banks, these hospitals, these e-commerce platforms, that they are operating within the set limitations and guidelines. So when we go through our industry lecture, we'll be covering what are different types of compliance requirement and how do you document those requirements, and what are different softwares which you are going to work, and what different compliance requirements are going to be integrated in those softwares. So that is your requirement. Gathering part, in terms of gathering, we've covered different types of meetings, face-to-face interview, one-to-one interviews. We've covered JAD session, we've covered document analysis, brainstorming session. This is different ways to capture information. Mostly you'll see that they will have requirement workshops nowadays, 2 hour 3 hour workshop. Maybe they'll conduct 2 to 3 workshops and they'll gather as many requirement as possible. Of course, later on there would be different meetings which will be conducted to further get elaboration on those requirements. If there is any concern from the development team, they'll go back, they'll ask business analysts to go back and ask this question. So there are different methods of gathering requirement that we have covered so far. So requirement types, requirement methods. Talking about requirement analysis, that is a very vague term when you say requirement analysis, because analysis can be done on so many things. Anything which is related to this requirement, not even directly, but let's suppose budget and resource, times and everything. These are also different types of analysis which are performed in a project team. Now, as a BA, your analysis is going to be mainly focusing on within requirement. There are two things. They want to build front end, a fully user-friendly front-end design which users can use. So you have to decide and design with sitting with the business users and development team what is going to be our front end, how our screens would look like. All these buttons, login, arrows, everything, filter options, whatever we discussed in terms of requirement about a specific application. Let's suppose Amazon. So how Amazon is going to look like, so that analysis will be done. Different types of screens, mock-ups, workflows will be designed. So that is part of your requirement analysis. The other part of your requirement is data requirement. You're going to analyze data requirement in terms of whatever data, whatever information which is needed to run this application, which is needed to run this and support this front end, how we are going to bring it, where that data is stored, do we even have that information available. So that is another analysis, data analysis, and you will be learning this in your last two lectures. What is data, how do you read analysis? So that is your second part that we also have covered. Third part of your SDLC is design or documentation, and we have covered BRD, we have covered FRD, we have covered user stories, and we have covered different supporting design documents such as UML diagrams, such as sequence diagram, use case diagram, and then some cases you'll be creating wireframes. Wireframe is nothing but actually showing how application would look like. For example, you draw a page and then you see that, okay, let's suppose you want to design a shopping cart. So it could have a top, hold on one second, why my pen is not working. Okay, so how we're going to have it, so let's suppose this is where it have menu or options, and then here we can provide different filters, price filter, all those things. So wireframes are nothing but actual depiction of your front end or every screen, how it is going to look like. So these are different supporting documents which are also going to be provided to development team with your BRDs, FRDs, or user stories. So we've covered documentation part as well. The next topic or next part of your SDLC or phase of your SDLC is coding. That is not my responsibility. That is the job of a development team or a developer to perform all those coding based on the documentation we have provided. You can simply work with them in terms of just testing those. If you're working in an Azure environment, you'll be testing their code. That means testing their functionality, which we are going to cover today. And then further, you have the testing, implementation, and maintenance. So these are all the phases. We have covered this. Let's say we don't have to cover this, and we are going to cover this one today. Implementation and maintenance, I'll give you a brief lecture about it, maybe 30-40 minutes, as you don't have enough responsibilities apart from making sure that when application is going to be implemented or when application is going to be launched on the production server so that users can use it, you will be providing them any piece of information they need. They would be requesting, production team would be requesting you to send BRDs, FRDs, how many users are going to be there, how many departments are going to be affected, all this kind of information they might ask you, and then that you can provide, but not all the time you'll be needed in this one. So, and then last lecture after testing would be data warehousing, which will cover your analysis, data mapping part. So today's lecture is testing, but before covering actual testing, I have to cover a small part of data so that you can understand testing. because you will be needing data to perform testing. There will be different types of testing environments. You need to understand what are those environments. So I'm going to walk you through what are different types of environments, and listen very carefully. Please take notes, because when you are going to work in an environment, you will be hearing all these terminologies, all these keywords I'm going to use. So don't get nervous or bogged down that what my manager is telling me. Okay, so this is very important, so please make sure you guys don't forget this, and mostly nobody is going to cover this with you in trainings. So lecture is testing, but before that we have to cover different types of data environments. And what do I mean by data environment? Simply, first of all, you need to understand what is data. Data is nothing but piece of information. Information about your customer, if it is a bank, information about those customers' account, information about those customers' transaction, whatever they are doing, different activities they are doing using that account, depositing check, withdrawing money, transferring funds, wire transfer, everything, all the information that is called data, and that keeps on storing in your databases. Every organization is going to have databases, multiple databases. Every department is going to have their own dedicated database. And then every organization is also going to have data warehouses, set of databases, where the data from all the databases is kept into one centralized location so that access can be given to every department. Or whenever there's a company-wide reporting that need to be done, they are going to utilize that data warehouse. So data of data. So we're going to talk about databases, that these are the information storage places where your information is stored in form of tables and columns. Now, the actual database where all your customer information, transaction account information is stored, that actual environment, actual database is called production server or production database. That is your real-time data. Every day, let's take example of Chase Bank. Chase Bank have millions of customers, and these customers are doing different types of activities using Chase Bank accounts. These activities are being recorded, the information from these activities being captured, and that information is being sent to this production database. It is live, it is current, it have all the real information. Now problem is, you cannot use this database for your development purposes. When I say development purpose, what does it mean? It simply means your departments are going to work with IT teams, and they're going to request these IT teams to help them create solutions, software, help them automate their processes. And when these IT teams are going to help them by building up these solutions, they need data, and they need to go in this database. They need to request the access of this database and get information if that stores that information which is needed or not. Now, this is very secure database. Okay, it's very private database. You have a lot of sensitive information in it. And IT team, regardless they are working full time or contractor, as in most cases you will see people hire, these banks or these companies hire IT teams, developers and BAs on contract basis, project to project basis. So what if somebody mess up with this environment, they steal certain information, or they mess up this overall production server, that it goes down, which can hurt performance of all your departments and everything. So that is the reason they cannot give access to IT teams to production server to develop and design their application. So what they do is, every organization, regardless of your industry, healthcare, finance, e-commerce, any industry, they will have these different types of data environments. So one would be production database. That is your live data, that is your real data, and that is basically very sensitive information. They will simply create multiple copies, mirror copies of production database for the purpose of development and testing the application. One source they will create would be called dev environment or development environment. You will also hear SIT environment or CIT environment as well. All these are same. Dev environment, SIT, CIT environment simply mean your development environment. The application code is going to be configured, designed using this database. Now, what is in this data? Is it the real same data? Is it the same copy? Yes, it is the same copy. Same copy mean number of customers, number of accounts, everything is going to be simply copied here. But the information within, for example, there's a customer table in production database. They will pick up this customer table, they'll bring it here as well, customer table. For example, under customer table, this is the information production database stores. First name, last name, client ID, this and that, whatever. Same way, the columns are going to be picked up, copied and pasted here. I mean, not copy pasted, of course, there's a lot of processes involved in it. But as a BS, we are not concerned with it because anyway, the second last lecture will cover how they do this. The columns, so table, same table names are going to be there. Same column names are going to be there. But now let's suppose the first name of one of the customer here is Anil. And last name, Anil, what is your last name?
Kumar.
Anil Kumar. So instead of bringing this actual Anil Kumar, they might replace it with anything else. Okay, for example, they might say Imran here, a random name. Anil social security is 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. They will make it 7 8 9 5 3 6 2. Anil's date of birth is March 8 1987. His date of birth will be past changed. So they are going to basically parse this data. They are going to mimic this data. The internal information is going to be changed. Your tables, all the tables are going to be brought into this dev environment. Whatever columns each table have, all these columns name will be same as is. But the information within transaction IDs and amounts and account number and codes and all those things, they will be changed. Most of the things will be changed, or at least that much information would be changed that by looking at this customer's data, you cannot verify if this is the actual customer in the production source or this is the actual information. So you, the people who are going to be looking at this data, they'll not be able to use it, leak it. So that is your dev environment. Your application code is designed, configured, and your dev level testing, your development IT level testing is done using this environment. So code is configured, code is generated, and testing is done. The initial testing is done using dev environment. So same way, let's suppose there is a software, there are multiple software storage points of this data. For example, the most commonly used is going to be SQL servers. Most companies store their data in a SQL server environment. It's a Microsoft SQL server environment. Once you open this, they will give you access to it and you'll be able to see databases names. When you click on those databases, if you have access to it, you'll be able to see table names and all that. But the information you can only see if you put a query. Select star from this table. So hit enter and the customer table will open up, whatever table you've selected. Or data is stored in Oracle server, which is also similar, but coming from Oracle company, different vendor, different types of front end, but the basic idea of SQL and Oracle server is same. So most companies data would be stored in either Oracle environment or SQL environment. Same way, when your dev data is going to be created, they will also have it in SQL server and Oracle server. And the access will be created for the dev team, for the testing team, for this source. Whenever they're going to start their analysis, let's suppose when I told you that Barclays requested us to create a centralized global search tool where we can search Barclays customer and the information which we want to see that can be retrieved and that can be reported. So when I wanted to go and do this project, first thing I got is the access to this dev environment of Barclay. Barclay had a database named Hornet, and they gave us the dev access to this. My development team got the access to this environment. My BA team got the access to this environment. And when I got the access, I can go in this database and perform my analysis. See if all the information which they're looking for, it is in the tables or not. Which table it is, what format it is in, what is the column name and all that, what is the source name. Had to map everything. Before mapping, I had to analyze everything. But again, as I said, those concepts will be covered in your last two lectures. So dev environment is going to be the one, or CAT environment is going to be the one where you will be first week or second or third week when you're joining the project, your manager will say, okay, can you get access to dev environment? So that means he wants you to get access to this environment where your data is stored. And that data is going to be used for the project purpose, for the application purpose. So he or she is asking you that you can request your access for this software, for this environment, ask your developer to help you, and your developer will get you the access, and then log in and perform your analysis. Now, once BAs and development team, they work on the project, they design this application and they test this application need to be moved for user testing. What is user testing? User testing is actual users who are going to use this application. 1 or 2 users will be dedicated for this testing. But guys, now you come in, we've done our testing, we have fixed all the bugs, all the defects, and now we want to implement this solution, we want to launch this solution. But before launching it, your testing is mandatory. So when business users are going to come and do the testing, they cannot use this environment. Can somebody tell me why they cannot use this environment for their testing purpose? They cannot use this data for their testing purpose.
Because this is dummy data, it is not the actual data.
Raji. Nahin.
Fine.
Anyone else?
That's what I was gonna say. It's not real from the first square. It's fake information.
So your customers, they want to see the actual data, actual records, actual information, and they want to perform. Raji, कोई question पूछूं तो तुमने answer नहीं करना है, ठीक है?
Yes, Imran.
Oh, okay. Good. So dev environment is having dummy data, and users cannot do the testing using dummy data. They are the actual users, and they will be the operation people. So for them, there's no privacy issue and all those things. Mostly they are working full-timers. Of course, they're working full-time. Our operation team is working full-time, so they can use the actual environment, but they still cannot use the production data, because we have to launch the application. That is the final place. So testing has to be done before production. So we have to perform testing in another environment for users, and that environment is called user acceptance testing environment. So that means the whole application code, everything need to be transformed. That code will be transformed from this environment into UAT environment. But what is UAT environment? UAT environment is the mirror copy of your production data, and here they have the actual values. It is the real data, but not live. Okay, this is not live data. They might update it after 1 month, 2 months, but whenever there are more information, more customers are coming into this production source. Of course, every day transactions are happening, every day accounts are being opened. So that means every day information is coming to production server. So after a month or 2 months, they keep on updating this UAT environment by throwing the new updates into UAT environment. It is real data, but it is not live data. It is static data. So application code will be transferred, and actually it will be transferred. It's a very funny thing. I was working in DST brokerage solution, and I was passing by one of my IT team member developer, and I asked him, "What are you doing? Let's go home." And he said, "No, I have to sit for 3 more hours." It was around 4 o'clock. I said, "Why you have to sit 3 more hours?" He said that I have applied this transfer from dev environment into UAT environment since morning, and because of the load of the data, it might take more time. I said, like, does it take that much time? He said, sometime the transfer is 2 days or 3 days long, that we just leave our systems on weekends and automatically it completes the transfer, and then application get transferred into UAT environment. So code is actually transferred in the UAT environment, and now your application can be tested within the UAT environment as well, and then users will be performing those testing. As a BA, you'll be supporting this process. Once your UAT is done, QA team can perform testing here as well, but for QA quality assurance team, though these teams do the automated testing, automation testing. For example, they want to see the performance of application before launching this application. They want to see performance. They want to see stress, how many users this application can bear. Let's suppose if 1,000 users are using this application at one time, would it still perform as per the standards or not? So for them, there's a QA environment created again that is similar to UAT, but we cannot call it UAT because this is for quality assurance team. Users are not involved in this. QA team does it. This is also real data, a copy of your production environment, but it is static. It is not live. And when application is done through all these phases, then your application code is launched on your final production server, which is the first one I started with. And that means now this application can be used by different users. Access can be granted to them. So this is your three environments or four environments. I would say 4 environments. Dev environment, that is the database for development purposes. UAT environment, that is the database for user testing purposes. QA environment for quality assurance testing, and finally the production environment, which is your live data, real feeds. Application need to be launched on these, because if applications are connected to your production server, the application which you design, it will be updated all the time. It will be getting live and real feeds whenever users are using this application to pull up reports, pull up information. They'll be getting information directly from the production server. Everyone clear
Imran,
on these environments, so I can move
I have a
forward?
question, Imran.
Yes.
The QA environment, you said same code which is done from the development is moved there, and then you have real data. So even in QA environment, when QA testers test, most of them are contractors or a combination of contractors and full times. When you say real data, is the privacy issue not exposed there?
No, so basically they don't perform data testing. Okay, they are not concerned with data or information. They are concerned with upgrades. Any upgrades you made on this application, any further customization you want to keep. Let's suppose in phase 1, I designed the application for 50 users, and I'm keeping a scalability in this application that in future it would support 100 users. So I'm going to give them this task, that can you please test that it is currently supporting 50 users, and do I have enough infrastructure supporting this in terms of hardware and software. So they will be, let's suppose, launching 100 users simultaneously. It's a simulation environment, and then they will be tracking the performance. They do volume testing, they do performance testing, they do speed testing, they do stress testing. These are all different types. So their testing is typically toward the hardware and software capabilities, not concerned with data. They're not going to use even one piece of data and do that testing. Is it clear?
Yes, Imran.
Okay. So QAs are automation testing. Automation testing have pretty much nothing to do with data. It is basically testing the application function, no, application performance, mainly the performance in terms of hardware, both hardware and software. So that is your QA. Anyone else have any question?
One more question, Imran.
Yes.
In the diagram, what you depicted, we have the actual production environment, then 1, 2, 3, and fourth one is the last production server, right? So
No, the
this
first
production
one
server,
is same production as this one. It's just that because I wanted to start with first what is the production database environment. So let's not consider this. This is same as this production server. So these are 4 environments: dev environments, UAT
okay.
environment, QA environment, and production. And before production, there's another small environment called staging area or staging environment. What is the reason of staging environment? Anyone can explain me that? Even Raji?
If any errors are there before actually going to live, this helps
Yes.
to uh, protect from that.
Yes, so that is a
Risk.
staging area where application is kept for some time so that to check and track it if there's any errors before launching it into production server, because you don't want to mess up your production environment, as your production environment is not only supporting your application, it is supporting multiple applications at the same time. And if you mess up this, it can hurt the performance of other applications as well. So that is very sensitive. So staging environment is created so that before moving it into actual environment, they keep it in staging environment. Good, Anil.
Imran, in your career, has it happened anytime that you moved the from dev to UAT and UAT to QA, and staging is cleared? When you actually go for production, the application is released to the general users. It has come with errors and has implication on other applications too.
Oh, what are you trying to imply, Anil? So that mean I'm not a good BA, huh?
It's the team effort, right? So it has
I understand
a
because
combination.
I'm just kidding. Okay, so no, not in my projects, any of my projects. I've heard that from a couple of my friends that they had issues after moving it into production. They started getting issues, defects, and all that, but not in my project. And if that happens, that is considered as failure.
So my question was not from that point. If the failure thing happens, so who is the one who gets flagged first? Because the business raises the flag, it is affecting their business. So from the SDLC standpoint, project manager BA is always involved, or again, what happens here?
So here, as a BA, I think they would not first inform you that. They would be informing this to the project leads. There are 2 leads. One is your PM project manager, and one is your IT team director or lead. It could be VP or it could be director. So these are 2 people who are first involved in it. And if they feel like discussing it with the IT team, they would first discuss it with developers. Okay. And then once this happens, they have to identify what kind of risk they are having. Now there could be small issues, very small issues, but production team is highlighting it in a very bad manner. So they first, developers are going to figure it out, and they're going to come and they're going to say if this is critical, they have to categorize it. If it is critical, then they have to involve everyone, the whole management, the steering committee. They need to know it that okay, this is a critical issue and we need time for it. Again, I don't know about the blame game, who's going to be responsible. As I said, I haven't faced this situation, and mostly
I can answer that a little bit.
yes.
Can I? Okay.
Yes.
So in this particular, if this situation were to happen, as Imran said, the PM or the IT development team, they would be responsible, not the BA, not the developers as such, but the ultimate person whose neck may be online will be the person who sponsored for this application. It could be a department or it could be an individual.
Or it could be
And
the
they
vendor.
may, depending on how big, depending on how big the issue is, if they could fix it, it's great. If not, then those people actually do get fired.
Right. Okay, Anil?
I had that actually in one of the projects we ran.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the person had to leave the project.
Yeah, that.
I have
It
a
was
question for the
like 2
question.
years.
I'm just asking from a layman terms. If the market in US is very big, so we have like 51 states, and I understand the market. But in Toronto, the market is very small. We're looking at a very close-knit area of GTA, 50 kilometers diameter. we are known in the market with types of the bank. My only concern is, Imran, will you get tagged to the project? I mean, will somebody know the success or failure of the project to your resume, or is just it goes on?
No, 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 no. That is not going to happen. In many cases, only if you, let's suppose, need letter of recommendation. Some employers may ask you, get a letter of recommendation from your previous team, which does not happen in US. I haven't seen that. Okay. They simply do background check. They simply do reference check. Any of your fellow BA who's your reference, they will simply call him and ask him, how is he in terms of communication, project wise? Would you like to work with him again and all that? If your references are good, then it's fine. Otherwise, it is not going to show up on your resume or anything. I have never seen this. Only if you need letter of recommendation and you have messed up intentionally with the organization where you work in past, then you have problem. Otherwise, I don't see any problem. I've
Okay, I
seen
mean, just
many people get. I've seen many people get fired. Okay, but that doesn't mean they cannot get, like, they cannot move on to next job. It does not come on their resume. It does not come on their profile. I don't think so that even client want to do it. That okay, after even firing him, they want to pursue further and ruin his career. I don't think so. That doesn't happen.
okay. Just to drag the question further, I mean, I have a reason for that. Chase application you've done successfully. You gave us information saying how bad the person, the manager was. Now, you with great difficulty, you got the project application successful. Now, if you move on to the similar location in Jersey City, it's a small world, right? You get tagged to people, the higher ups. They know the success and failure of the project, and would they categorize that way?
I can't comment on that. Obviously, only I can comment if I have faced this kind of situation, or I know someone who have faced this kind of situation. So I would not be able to give you the actual answer. I can simply presume or assume that this can happen, this cannot happen. For me, I don't think so personally. I don't think so that is going to affect anyone in the team who was working there and the project got messed up. I don't think so. Maybe the only person could be affected is the PM, project manager, because project manager interview is a little bit different than BA. Okay, they are asked question on the success rates and everything, and can you please get some recommendation from your previous organization that you delivered your project successfully. So I think major onus is on the project manager. Regardless your project manager was technical person, regardless you've hired him only for the scope part, for the budgeting part, resourcing part, he does not understand, he or she does not even understand the application or technology, still I think that is the one major role in your project which is going to get affected if project is a failure. Apart from that, I don't think anyone else.
Yeah, the only thing to an extent, only thing that'll happen is they may not take you within the same company. If you were working for, say, Barclays and you did that project, they may not, some other team within Barclays may not want your help on their project, depending on how bad the feedback was on you as a BA.
Exactly.
But if your manager thought you did a good job, then you still may be able to get a job in a different team.
Exactly.
But any other client, it doesn't matter.
Even Raji, if you see, Barclays have hundreds of IT teams, different departments, multiple IT
Correct.
teams are working. Nobody basically think about what's going on in other teams, what kind of failures they are having. They're so busy in their own projects, they don't even get to know something happened like that. Even the managers, they won't know. So even if you want to apply next time, maybe after 6 months, 9 months, you want to you got a project or you got interview for Barclays again, I don't think they would even remember it. Not even remember, they would not even know what happened. Yeah, if let's suppose they start talking about, okay, so who were you working with? Oh, this guy, oh, I know him, he's a friend of mine. That's it. But that doesn't mean that this person will pick up a phone and call this guy. If he likes you, he or she likes you, and they feel you're a confident person and you're handling your CV skill set properly, then that's it. That's what they want to see. And past is past anyway. All right, so you guys understand different types of data environments. Production server, you have QA environment, you have dev environment, and you have UAT environment. Now it will be easy to explain you the testing types. What do you do in testing? So you will have two phases of testing. Again, nobody is going to specifically tell you we are into this phase. It's just I'm telling you this is how things are going to work. So testing phases are going to be two. Number one, static testing. Number two, dynamic testing. Now, so testing means your application is ready, that can be used, not used, but at least used by the IT teams, and then perform testing on it, check functionality of it, if it is working properly or not, and then create defects and fix those defects. So static testing, before you move into actual testing, you have to prepare for your actual testing. For dynamic testing, you have to prepare first. What you need to prepare? You need to review all your documentation. So review your BRD, review your functional document or user stories one time, just to make sure that before writing down your test cases, you can actually you actually know your application, even though you are the one who wrote it. But again, one more time, please review your front end functionality document, FRD or user stories, and then you can start writing your test cases. The development team need to review their code one time at least before they are going to launch it for testing phase. So they will be reviewing their code. Once that is done, test plan need to be created. Mostly there's a QA team who's responsible to create the test plan document. But I'll be walking you through tomorrow what is test plan and how you create it if in case the responsibility is given to you. Again, as I said, you simply need to follow template, and because test plan is going to not only going to have your testing, it is going to have testing of 4 teams. The plan about 4 testings. One is BA testing, other is development team testing, third is your QA testing, and then users testing. So when all these 4 parties are going to be testing this application, that means test plans should include all these 4 test phases, and the information, with whatever information, if you are writing this document, you need to talk to these individuals and get the information to fill up this template. But most cases, your QA team is responsible of delivering the test plan. And then test cases need to be written as BAs. This is your responsibility, that you're going to write down test cases. So that is your first phase called static phase. Now, dynamic phase is the actual testing. That means your test cases have been written. You have conducted meetings, you have done planning, you have timelines and all those things. Everything has been sorted out. And now you're moving for your actual testing. So before saying what as a BA you do, let me walk you through what are different types of testings which are going to happen. So within dynamic testing, there are further 2 categories. One is white box testing and one is black box testing. Again, guys, nobody's going to ask you, tell me dynamic testing, tell me what are 2 types of testing. They'll simply ask you a question. Have you done white box testing? Have you done black box testing? Or further, whatever categories are there, have you done SIT or CIT? So white box testing is for the coding team, development team. They are the one who are going to do the white box testing. As a BA, I'm not going to do white box testing. Why they are calling it white box? The application for the development team, the team who have designed and configured this application, for them the application is like a white box. They can see inside, they can see through it. So that means they are going to perform code level testing. Okay, they'll be doing code level testing. They'll be checking every single code they have designed and see if it is providing the right output. after inserting their test scenario, test data, or whatever input they have, they would like to see the output which is matching the business need. So they will be doing code level testing. The testings they are going to do are going to be called SIT testing, CIT testing, unit testing, regression testing. So these are different types of testings they are going to perform. SIT mean system integration testing. CIT mean component integration testing. Component integration testing simply mean every single component of your application. For example, Facebook have multiple components. It have home page, it have profile page, it have setting page, it have privacy page, it have gaming page, it have account setting page. Different types of components are there, filter options are there, search options are there. Everything you see on Facebook, these are all components. This is how the application is designed. And they would be testing each component if each component is working properly or not, but using their code level testing. System integration testing simply mean your system, your application is integrated. Your application cannot stand alone. Your application is connected to multiple other either environments, either application, either hardwares or softwares. For example, if I give you example of my Barclays application was getting feeds data from the data warehouse. So it is connected to that data warehouse. It is integrated to that data warehouse. So within system integration testing, the IT team want to see if your application is properly integrating and it is not creating any issue for the integrated part or integrated applications. For example, you have a trading system or trading application that is connected with multiple different applications. It is getting feeds from market data provider, Bloomberg and Thomson Reuters and all that. It is getting data from pricing engines, Yahoo, Morning Finance, all this. It is getting data from your basic data warehouse. It is getting data from clearinghouse. It is getting data from your databases, trade blotters. So this application, so same way one application can be getting feeds information from different other applications. But is it integrated properly or not? Is your system connected to other system properly or not? That is your system integration testing. So development team will also be making sure that your system code is actually providing the same output or right output which you're expecting with the other system as well. So that is your system integration testing. This is done by the development team. When you talk about black box testing, I don't understand the code. I cannot read the code. For me, this application is like a black box. For the users, this application is like a black box. For the QA, also this application is like a black box. They are not the one who designed the code. We can only see outside. That means we can see the front end of the application. What is happening on the screens? I can see, I can post picture, I can see, I can comment, I can like, I can send message, receive message, I can use the front end. So for me, application is a black box. I cannot see inside, I can see outside. So that means I have to do this front end testing. Users have to do this front end testing, this application, how it is being used. So that is simply black box testing, also called as functional testing. And there are two types within black box testing. One is manual testing and one is automation testing or automated testing. BAs and users are going to perform manual testing. That simply means using the application by logging into this application, going through each and every single function of this application, recording your result if this application functions are working as per the documents you have written, as per the test cases you have written or not. And if there are any defects, raising those defects to development team, fixing those defects is the responsibility of development team, but retesting them is again you have to do it. So it's a very simple level BA testing. Log into the application which you have designed, use each and every single function and record your results. BAs, users both are going to perform that. And whenever somebody asks you in interview as a BA what you have done in terms of testing, don't talk about black box, don't talk about manual, don't talk about dynamic testing. Simply use this word. As a BA, I have performed throughout my career functional testing, within which I have done SIT testing, CIT testing, and regression testing. Now you'll be thinking why I am using same keywords, same terminologies which I was using for the code level testing, development team testing. Their SIT CIT is based on code. My SIT CIT is based on functionality which I can see. So for me, component integration testing is going to be what? One of the component of Facebook is login. So what I will do, I will get the access to this application which we just designed, and I will try to log in by following these steps. What are the steps of login? Launch application by putting www.facebook.com. I'll do that. Click on login button. I'll do that. Enter your email ID. Enter your password. Hit submit. And if I'm able to log in, that means this login function is working fine. This component is working fine. This test case has passed. Same way, I'm going to do this component testing on every single function by following my test cases, which I'm going to cover in few minutes. What is a test case? How do you write a test case? So that would be my component integration testing, but I'm doing it manually by using the actual application, not going into code, not going into anything else. The second testing I'm going to perform is SIT testing, that is system integration testing. Now my application is connected with another application or a database where it is getting the information from. And I want to search one customer. Customer name is Raji. I want to see what information about Raji my application provides me, her name, last name, date of birth, address, everything. And same way, I want to go into database and I want to open the database customer table and find out Raji in database. If the information of database about Raji is same as the information which I'm getting from my application, that means the data has been connected properly, the application has been integrated properly. Same way, you will pick up some sample data from your database, you will run it into application and you will cross verify, cross match these results with each other to see if there's any discrepancy. If there's any issue, discrepancy, your data is not coming properly, your information is not coming properly, that means there are mapping issues, there's data lineage issue, there's data quality reporting, data quality issues, and all those that again we will discuss in our last two lectures. But system integration testing, yes, that is how you're going to do by preparing sample data, customer IDs or transaction IDs, and then putting it into your application or platform, running it there and seeing if the same information is being given to your application or not. For example, there's a tool called Nice Optimize System. That is the platform used for AML, anti-money laundering. Across globe, universally this is being used. Pretty much every bank you name is using AML software called Optimize. What this does is this, the software does monitoring of all the transactions which are happening, all the activities which are happening within one bank, within one department, and it raises alerts if anything, any activity is fraudulent, any activity is suspicious, any activity or transaction is crossing certain boundaries which are already set within AML tool, and it generates an alert. So let's suppose I, as a banker, got alert that there's an account number. Give me one second. So let's suppose there's an alert, and this alert shows like this: account ID 123456, transaction date of today, transaction amount is 5,000 US dollar, and alert criteria is why alert is generated because it crossed $3,000 limit, so that is why alert is generated. Now I know that my system, AML system, have generated alert for me, which is $5,000. I am not going to call this person and customer and verify the information. First thing I'm going to see is if this alert is true. This is how investigators are going to do. Your investigators are going to work, or the application users are going to work whenever they're going to get any alerts or reports from their softwares. They need to verify it with the database. So they will go in the database. They will open this customer information by opening customer table, doing select open star from customer table. And when customer table opens up, they can further query it where customer name is equal to, let's suppose, Raji. So they will find out if this customer have done this transaction and if the amount is exactly $5,000. If it is $5,000, that means alert is true, so they can start their further investigation. But if data says it is $3,000, that means you did not, you get a false positive, you get a false alert. So same way, that's why I was giving you this example, that system integration testing, which as a BA you're going to perform, you simply need to do data testing, taking up some sample data from the database, running it into your application, making sure that it is integrated properly. So my system and my CIT, my component integration testing is manual. Their system, their CIT testing is done on code. And then regression testing simply means, anyone can explain me what is regression testing?
Repeated test.
Sorry?
Is it repeated testing?
Why you need to do that?
Will they? No. Will the application fail if the is it producing the same result, or will the application fail if a repeated number of tests are done?
Sorry, I was on mute. Anyone else? For the change, Rajasveer, can you please explain me what do you mean?
Maybe for the tool they want to change, or the methods.
Didn't catch you. Act like a BA. Talk like a BA. Consider yourself sitting in a meeting. We need to start building this thing from now on. In teams, they are going to ask you question, and you need to respond it properly.
When he still has the BNY.
Okay.
So Imran, I would want to give it a go. If there are any errors or defects found in earlier testing and they revised the code or made any changes,
Yes.
to recheck that, we do the regression testing.
That's good. So this is one reason that you perform testing, and there's a second reason as well. What is that reason? That is a simple reason. For example, your Facebook does exist already, and they hire a team to make some new improvements and changes. Some features were added. So they're not going to only test those new features or new improvements. They're going to go back in every single feature of Facebook and retest it again, only to make sure that because of these new features, nothing has been corrupted or no feature is basically being affected. Application is working smoothly. The components which you have added now, they have been integrated with the existing components properly, accurately. So regression testing simply two reasons. One is that if let's suppose you found a bug defect, you give it to development team for fixing it, you guys need to retest it again and again to make sure that it is fixed. Second major reason is that if your application was enhanced, it is an enhancement project, you need to retest the whole system again. Even in documentation, you are not going to simply, let's suppose I am going to do certain changes in application, there's a new project and I'm going to only write down new functionality. No, you have to clone the existing documentation first. Anything and everything which already exists in this application, first write it down, copy paste everything from your previous BRDs and FRDs and now start your new features. Same way regression testing means when you're adding new features to application, you need to check the existing functionality as well. Clear, guys?
Right, Middletown.
Yeah, clear.
Clear? Okay. Anil?
Yes, Imran.
Okay. So that is regression testing. That is also one category that you will be saying. So if somebody asks you as a BA, have you ever been involved in testing? You're gonna say definitely. Of course, you're gonna say that yes, all my projects have been involved in performing functional testing, within which I've done CIT, SIT, and regression testing. What is CIT testing? CIT testing is a component integration testing where I utilize the test cases which I've written to test every single function of the application and record my results. And system integration testing is where I've tested the system integration with other application or systems by preparing sample data, running it into application and cross-verifying results, making sure everything is working smoothly. That is my system integration testing. And regression testing I just explained you. Now, if you're going to perform component integration testing, you need to have test cases written. So simply you need to go back, visit your user stories or your functional document, which is FRD, copy paste everything you had, but put it in a different template. Think of a user story, but here template is a bit different. The same concept, the same functionality you have written. Let's suppose in your FRD or your user stories for login function, you guys had written to log in, a user must launch the application first by putting this in URL. The application must be having internet available that time. The user now then click on registration, or if he's already a member, he can click on login, and to log in he have to follow these steps. Same steps you are going to take out, copy them, paste it in your test plan, in your test case. So what is a test case? How do you write a test case? So test case have this template, test case ID. Let's suppose 01, this is my first test case. Test case name, login using email ID. Test case short description: as a tester, want to test login functionality. Business requirement number, which business requirement it is being generated. 01, let's suppose my first business requirement was login or authentication, so it is coming from there. Preconditions, what are the preconditions which you as a tester must meet to test this function, or your system must meet to test this functionality? Number one, valid email ID and password, that is must, and internet must be available. All right, test case steps. Simply copy that login function. Just rephrase it a bit. So login function was that number one, user must launch application by putting this in URL. Number two, user must enter email password. Okay. Number 3, user must hit or submit login button. That's it. These are the test case steps. Expected results. Actual results. And pass or fail. I don't know this. I don't know this. I know expected results should be that user should be able to log in. That is what I'm expecting, that by following these steps, user should be able to log in. User or tester, you can use both words. I would suggest using user. I don't know the actual result. I don't know if my test case passed or failed. What will happen? I will write down the test case for every single function one by one. First, I have to prepare all the test cases. And if it is, for example, waterfall environment, then you have to prepare all the test cases, because only once you do the complete application testing. But if it is agile, then you need to simply prepare test cases for your user stories. Whatever user stories you've written and which are being delivered in your sprint, coded in your sprint for 1 or 2 user stories, write down a test case. But if it is waterfall, then all the test cases, they need to be written. So let's suppose this is agile environment. This is my test case I've written. Usually in agile environment, they don't write these test cases. They can simply, once the application goes through multiple sprints and it gets designed completely, then they will request you, can you guys please write down all the test cases and completely retest the application once more. So at that point, you can write it down the test case. Otherwise, during your sprint, you don't need to attach your test cases or anything. Simply need to follow the link they provide you, look at it, view it. If it is fine, put your comment under the ticket, tested the solution or tested the function, everything looks fine. But eventually, once all your sprints are over, they will ask you to retest the whole application by writing down test cases. So at that point of time, you have to write down these test cases. So login function can have multiple further test scenarios. Underneath one test case, there could be different scenarios. I want to also test this by logging in using invalid ID and password. Why I want to do that? I want to do it to make sure system is not allowing any unauthorized user with invalid email ID. That is called negative testing. So there could be multiple function which can be tested on multiple scenarios, within which there could be negative scenarios. For example, transfer of fund. That is one test case you want to check. So when you're writing transfer of funds, you will have transfer of funds with sufficient funds. That need to make sure that first the user have sufficient fund, and that is also going to be your precondition, that user have sufficient funds, and follow the steps and test it. One case could be transfer of funds with insufficient funds. And the condition is going to be also that insufficient funds. You want to see if having insufficient fund, my application is still letting me go and transfer. There could be glitches like that. So positive testing, negative testing, there could be multiple scenarios under one test case. For example, one of your function is posting picture. So you want to test post picture functionality. So test case ID 03, test case name, post picture. But now, because there are 3 criteria, post picture using album, post picture using camera, post picture using photo library. So you can make 3 different test scenarios by using same template, 3 different test scenarios. So one function can have multiple test cases, guys, or test scenarios. If your expected results match your actual result, user was or user is able to log in. Once you're going to test one screen at one station, you will open up your test case. On the other screen of your PC, you will launch the application. By looking at your test steps, You will apply same steps in your application even though you don't need to because you are the one who designed it. So वो पहले ही याद होगा, everything you know about application already. You don't really need to see your test cases because you are the one who have gone through all these documents, all these meetings, so you know how to log in. So if something does not match, you will automatically, but because we need to record it, it is not for my satisfaction. It is not for my user satisfaction that I'm documenting these test cases. It is not for my team satisfaction. It is for no one's satisfaction but one. What if the audit comes in and they want to see your application which you design currently, your working, your operation are based on those applications, and they want to see if these applications were designed properly and accurately. So they will request all these documents, and if you don't provide these documents, they will give you a heavy fine. And when I say they mean there could be different audit firms, audit authorities, regulatory authorities, whom you are doing reporting using these applications. And if you're not tracking, let's suppose back in 2013, JP Morgan Chase was fined $300 million. Bank Al Habib of Pakistan was fined $672 million and it was shut down. Why? Because its software was not able to record or report certain alerts. JP Morgan's. Habib Bank, they intentionally did it. They wanted to save Nawaz Sharif because all those payments were made from Saudi Arabia to Habib Bank branch in New York City. From New York City, it was routed to Pakistan and Sharif's accounts, and then they did not report it. Habib Bank owner was close, or his close friend, Mia Manshah's close friend of Nawaz Sharif, so he did not report it. And when audit came out, they found out these transactions happened. They were worth 21 point some million dollars. So they fined them $672 million. One of my consultant, he worked on closing that branch and he worked on all those alerts as a BA. When they were closing it, they had to close every single alert on that AML tool. So I'm writing these documents so in case I'm satisfying everyone, but more importantly, this document, they will be maybe some process, they must be, these application can be audited. So these test cases will be returned. One screen you will open up test cases, other screen you will open up your application, use these test case steps, record your results, and if your results expected are matching with actual, your test case passed, take a screenshot of that function logging in or whatever if it is working, and attach that screenshot also with this document. Now if you look at my test case document, that is the BRD, FRD and all those Barclays document which I've sent you in one scanned file. The first one is test case document. First 2-3 pages are about what is testing and infrastructure and all that, but when you actually start looking at the first test case, you will see test case steps, and I've taken screenshot of every function and I've recorded it. And if there's any defects, you're going to raise those defects, and then tomorrow we'll be covering that part of how you raise those defects, what software you use to manage everything, testing, test management. Yes, I will be. Thank you. Okay, so your assignment is pick up those two functions from your application for those two user stories you have written or two use cases you have designed. For same two use cases, I want you to write test cases. You can write 2 test cases or you can write whatever scenarios are under there, 2 to 4 test cases. Excel sheet template, you can use any template from Google. You can follow my template as well. I'm sending you today's documentation, so you can use that template as well. Doesn't really matter as long as you're having this steps, test case steps, actual and expected results, and then pass fail. So same assignments which I've given you, user stories and use cases. On same user stories or use cases, I want you to come up with 3 to 4 test cases. Send it before tomorrow's class. Anyone have any question, you can ask me right now. The rest of the testing will be covered, which is basically managing this whole process, what software we use if we want to manage testing, or what defects are, how you manage defects, raise defects, requirement traceability matrix. All those things will be discussed in tomorrow's lecture. Anyone have any question, you can ask me right now. Otherwise, I have to help someone. There are at least 3 people who are having interview today. So please go ahead.
Sometimes my bank asks me like 5 weird questions. So who make up those questions before I log in? Like they will ask me, what is your favorite candy? What is your favorite game? So without that, I can't even like log in.
You're right.
So what is that? Who like designed those things?
So those are
Sometimes I don't even remember. Then I have to call the bank, and then they will tell me, oh, I have to answer those. They will
secret
give me the
question,
access
3
again.
question. What is who's your childhood best friend or favorite book or favorite movie and all that? Those are that depends on what is the service your bank is using. Now let me tell you, don't get complicated. Simple concept. Whenever you're designing application, if you're designing application with the authentications and all those privacy and everything, your IT team is going to hire a third party vendor. That vendor is going to make sure that your system is secure, so they will set up these security controls. All those requirements are written by them, everything is done by them. We don't do that. If this is your own internal application and you don't need a third party security, then in that case your developers can write down the requirement on that. Again, these are non-function requirements, so it's a good question. This is part of your non-function requirement. But let me verify it one more time. If users are looking at it and users are responding to those questions, then how come they are part of non-functional requirement? They should be part of functional requirement, but in some way security functional requirement. Okay, I'm not sure if that is a functional or non-functional requirement, but in most cases the third-party vendors who are supporting the authentication process within your application, and which is going to be happening in pretty much every single application in the financial sector, they are the one who design these parameters or criteria.
Imran, is sanity testing something different?
I'm sorry,
Is there sanity testing?
can you spell it?
SANITY?
Okay, I never heard about it. As we said, there could be multiple types of names, different types of terminologies used, but at the end, they pretty much are same. So let me see on Google, what is sanity testing? Okay. So sanity testing is kind of software testing performed after receiving a software build with minor changes in code or functionality to ascertain that the bugs have been fixed and no further issues are introduced. Okay, same thing we were talking about, regression testing. So they want to check the sanity of the system, if it is still after making those changes and adjustment, if it is working fine or not. So mainly regression testing.
So this nomenclature we need to be keep updated, right? I mean,
Yes. Okay, I'm gonna send you this recording in next 1 hour. I'm gonna send you an email with the today's documentation as well, maybe in next 1 hour, because I'm going to help a couple of people in interviews. Last weekend, 2 of my consultants got roles, one with Citi and one with Wells Fargo. I've also had to help them as well because they're asking me a lot of questions about onboarding. So let's do discussion tomorrow. Is it good?
okay.
All right.
Thank you, Imran.
Thank you guys. Thank you for joining. I'll be sending this in few minutes.
Okay.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Imran.
Thank you.